This tree was in the middle of the garden and it had all the delicious foods that you could eat, everything that your heart desired, and these animals loved to have this food. They had pizza and hot dogs and steaks and hamburgers and all kinds of things, and ice cream and everything on the tree. And then all you had to do was say the name of the tree, and everything would fall down.
What's the name of the tree?
Now the years passed. The years passed, and the animals came and went. And you know what happens over time? Sometimes things get forgotten. And one day, the animals came to the tree, and try as they might, they couldn't remember the name of the tree. And so all the food was stuck up in the tree. And they were asking each other, "What do we do? What do we do, Mom? Son, what do we do? We can't remember the name of the tree." And they would try to reach up and grab, and the branches would move out of the way. They tried to climb up, and the branches would knock the animals down. They just couldn't get into the tree without knowing its name. But one of them remembered. There was a fox who remembered that there was a man who lived at the top of a mountain who knew the name of the tree. So they decided they would send a representative from the animals to go to the man on the mountain and ask him the name of the tree in the middle of the garden. So all the animals, you can imagine, they were all saying, what do you think they said?
I don't want to go, I don't want to go.
What do you think they said?
I want to go,
I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. Right? So they decided that they would send one of the biggest animals they could find. They decided to send the lion. The lion was big, he was fast, he could run. So they all agreed the lion would go. And so the lion said, "Thank you very much, I'm happy to go for all of you." And the lion bounded out of the garden, and he started to go, and he ran through the fields, and he ran through past the river, and he came to the mountain, and he was going up the mountain. And he went up and up and up and up and up the mountain. He came to a small little cave.
A bear.
And in that cave, there was a fire. And around that fire, there was a man sitting there. And the lion came to the man and he said, "Do you know the name of the tree in the garden?" And the man said, "Yes, I do. Come close."
He's going to kill it.
And the lion came close.
He's going to kill it.
He said, "Abracadabra." Okay. And the lion thanked the man, and he was ready to bound out. He left the cave, he left the fire, he left the cave, he went out to the mountain. He started down the mountain, but he was going down the mountain, and he came to a spot in the sun, and he was a little tired. He had gotten there so fast that when it was time to go back, he was kind of tired. He was a big lion, right? So he decided to take a rest at the bottom of the mountain.
People poached him. Or killed him. It's belly up.
Finally, the lion woke up. And he decided to go off again. And he said to himself, "All right, I'm going back to the village." And he went back to the village, went by the river. He went through the field, and he came to the village, and all the animals said, "So, did you get the name?" And he said, "Yes, of course I got the name. I'm the lion, I'm the king of the jungle, of course I got the name." And he went up to the tree, and he said, And he could not remember the name. It had flown out of his head when he took a nap, and he was useless. So the animals were all upset. They decided they would send another animal. They decided this time we have to send an animal who doesn't get tired, but is just as big. Let's send the elephant. And the elephant decided, "Okay, I'll go." I'll
How did he
go.
do that?
And the elephant decided, so he started to lumber out of the garden. He lumbered out of the garden. And he went through the fields. And he went by the river. And he came to the mountain. And he started to climb up the mountain.
Ow, that hurt my ears.
And he climbed up the mountain. And he came to the cave. And he jumped. So he didn't hit the top of the cave because he was a big elephant. So he crept into the cave. And he saw the man at the fire. And he said, "Sir, do you know the name of the tree in the garden?" And the man said, "Yes. The name of the tree is
Abracadabra.
Abracadabra." And the elephant said, "Thank you."
We're gonna send Albert Einstein.
And he came down and he left the cave. He ducked his head so he didn't hit it. And he left the cave, he straightened up and he came down the hill. And he came and he went down the hill and he down the mountain and he came by the river. And as he was walking by the river, he looked into the river. And he realized that he was very what? No, he wasn't tired. He was very thirsty. So he stuck his trunk in the river and he drank. And he drank. And he drank so much water he had to blow it out. He had to blow all the water out. And as he blew all the water out, he blew out the words too. And he came to the village and they said, "Do you know the name?" He said, "Well, I knew it, but I was thirsty. And I blew it out my nose." My trunk. I blew it out my trunk. And he tried all these different things. Aska-padaska, he couldn't think of it, he couldn't get it, and he was useless. So the animals were getting frustrated, and this time they decided they were going to send...
Albert Einstein.
Nope, they were going to send something who was fast, but not too big, and not too tired, and not too thirsty. They decided to send a deer. And they decided to send the deer, and the deer went, and he went through the fields, through the forest, and up in past the river, up the mountain to the cave. And he tilted his head so he didn't catch his antlers in the cave. And he came to the man and he said, "Do you know the name of the tree in the village?" And the man said, "You're not the first one to ask. But I'll tell you." What was the name? Abracadabra. And the deer thanked him and he left and he went down the mountain and he came down and he came through past the river and he decided not to have any water and he came into the forest. And as he was leaving the forest to go into the fields, his antlers caught in a tree. And he was stuck. And he couldn't move. And he was going back and forth and back and forth. And all of a sudden, crack! His antler cracked. And he got freed. But in the meantime,
You forgot the name.
he forgot the name. And he came back to the village and all the animals said, "So what's the name?" And he said, And he didn't know. And he couldn't think of it. He tried everything and he just couldn't think of it. And at this point, the animals were frustrated. They said, "Anybody willing to go? Anybody at all?" And who do you think raised his hand? A little turtle. And the turtle said, "I'll go." And all the animals said, "You're going to go take, you're so small, you'll take forever." And he said, "No, I will remember." And they said, "Okay, we're out of choices, you can go." And so the turtle left the garden. Before he left the garden, he stopped by his mother's house. And he said, "Ima, what do you do when you need to remember something and you don't want to forget it?" And she said, "Repeat it over and over and never, ever stop." So the turtle started his walk very slowly. And he came through the fields and through the forest, by the river and up the mountain. He walked and he walked. And eventually, over time, he got to the top of the mountain. He walked into the cave.
Did all the animals die before he got there?
He was walking. He was being diligent. They were going to wait. They knew it would take him a while. And he came into the cave. And he said, "Sir," to the man in the mountain, "what's the name of the tree?" And he said, "Abracadabra. You're not the first one to ask me for this name." And the turtle said, "I know, but I'm not gonna forget." And he thanked the old man, and he started out of the cave, and he came down to the mountain, and he saw the patch on the ground where the sun was shining, and he was a little tired, and he said, "Abracadabra." And he kept walking. And he came by the river, and he saw the river, and was he getting thirsty. Oh, show me thirsty. What does thirsty look like? He was so thirsty. Oh, he was so thirsty. But he said, "Abracadabra." And he kept going. And he came to the forest where all the trees were haggling the trees where the deer had gotten caught. And he said, "I don't have antlers, but abracadabra." And he kept saying it. And eventually he came to the garden. He could see the tree and the animals could see him. And they all ran out because by this time they were really hungry. And they carried the turtle to the tree. And he got to the tree.
You forgot it.
And he said, Abracadabra. And all the food fell from the tree, and all the animals were sustained and filled to their bellies because they had the food. And you know what? You know what the turtle did?
What?
He went up to the lion and he said, "I understand. It was hard not to take a rest." And he said, "I understand." He went to the lion, to the elephant, and he told him, "It's okay. I know you were thirsty, and so was I." And he went to the deer and he said, "I saw the place where you got caught, and it's okay." And they all ate together, and that is the story of the tree of the garden that fed all the animals on Tu B'Shvat.